As you listen to this record, I'd like you to sit back comfortably and enjoy the luxury of complete relaxation. Although ours will be, for the time we are together, a doctor-patient relationship, this is one medical visit you do not have to make to an office. You can enjoy it in the privacy of your own home. In giving you advice that will help you keep well and perhaps add years to your life, I do not intend to diagnose or treat your individual problems. That is your doctor's job. My purpose is to give you information which you have been unable to obtain from him, either because a busy practice limits his time, or because you have hesitated to bother him with questions. Here are some of the questions I will take up in my visit with you. I'll discuss executive tensions, how to avoid them and lessen them, how to manage anxiety. I'll talk about coronary disease, ulcers, and high blood pressure, give you tips on how you can enjoy life right now, and give you tips on how to combat fatigue and also the secret of relaxation. I'll tell you what you can expect in a complete physical examination. I'll talk about sleep habits and review such common problems as exercise, overeating, smoking, and alcohol. Last but not least, I'll give you some pointers on vacations and preparing for retirement. Most listeners will admit, if they won't, their wives will, that the prematurely sick or dead executive is a failure. He has let down his family, his friends, his business firm, not forgetting himself. Yet it has been my experience that the executive most brilliant in his work may be the most stubborn and obtuse when it comes to keeping healthy and staying alive. My purpose is to make you aware of this intensely personal problem. I am actually trying to prevent you, as an executive and as a human being, from inadvertently committing slow suicide. When I have concluded, I think you will agree with this quotation from Dr. George W. Calver, attending physician to the Congress of the United States. Quote, "Nothing is so dead as a man's ambitions when his health fails him." Unquote. Begin enjoying your life right now, at work or at play, on vacation or in retirement, and you will be a healthier person and live longer. But this is all easier said than done, and the doing depends upon you. As an executive, you bear daily stresses caused by your ambitions and frustrations, by your aspirations and anxieties. Your job is to channel them into healthy outlets and a sensible way of life. Better take time out now and look at yourself objectively. It will be time well spent. From personal experience with executives, I visualize you as follows. You are somewhere in the 30 to 65 age range. And if you're in your 70s, I won't be surprised. You spend more than 50 hours a week at your desk. You are hypercritical of yourself. You spend at least 75% of your time talking to all kinds of people, temperaments that range from A to Z. You are constantly plagued by the feeling that you have more work to do than you can possibly accomplish. You also have many personal worries and anxieties. Much of your time is taken up with paperwork at your desk and at home. You plan and prepare reports. You analyze other reports. You read trade publications. You write and read inter-office correspondence. You write up interviews and meetings. You smile outside and tense up inside when people drop in without appointments and steal valuable minutes of your time. You eat and sleep business. That's just another way of saying you grab a bite of lunch and stay awake nights thinking about the plant. And when you get there in the morning, before the job is an hour old, you are as wound up and tense as a coiled spring. You wonder how you will make it till 6 o'clock. You are in the middle. You get pressure from the top down and from the bottom up. Let's face it, whatever it is, hard-working executives get it. Some call it pressure. We medical men call it tension or stress. As an executive, do you keep your foot jammed down hard on the accelerator pedal day after day? If so, you're inviting a crack-up when you travel at high speeds, physically, emotionally, or both. When you work 14 to 18 hours a day without vacations or other relaxation. When you harbor resentment day after day because you are forced to work under a man who got the promotion you were in line for. When you and your wife live in a marital shambles marked by daily bickering and argument. Tensions in the office and in your home inevitably add up to serious trouble. How can you neutralize these slow poisons? Let me paraphrase the mental hygiene creed which I quote in my book, Mr. Executive, Keep Well, Live Longer. Try to adapt to life completely and gracefully. Learn to work, rest, and play every day. Work at a worthwhile job. Avoid undue fatigue. Laugh more every day. Form good habits of living, thinking, acting, speaking, and feeling. Believe that self-pity, suspicion, envy, jealousy, and revenge are useless sentiments. That loyalty, courage, kindness, and unselfish love are dependable sentiments. Try to keep away from emotionally undisciplined people. Face facts and try to cultivate an objective point of view. Accept your liabilities and cultivate your assets. Make clear-cut decisions. Although you may ask for counsel and advice, let no one make up your mind except yourself. Don't expect to get precisely what you want in this world. When inevitable difficulty arises, deal with it courageously. Meet fear, anxiety, and worry head-on, knowing that fear is the normal stimulus to courage. Don't let your tensions and frustrations out on your wife, children, or subordinates. Release pent-up energies in moderate physical activity. And I want to stress that word, moderate. Exhibit genuine interest in others and in their problems. Learn to control your hostilities. The more successful the executive, the more he can dish out hostility and accept it gracefully. Learn to take defeat and victory in stride. Be a good loser and be able to take victory without displaying wild elation. Don't be a perfectionist. Do your best, but don't berate yourself or others because you fall short of the final goal. Limit your overtime at the office. Don't take your briefcase home night after night. Restore lost recreation time to your schedule. Quite a chunk of inspiring philosophy, isn't it? Therefore, don't try to swallow it whole. That may give you emotional indigestion. But ponder the points singly and unhurriedly. They'll pay higher dividends than you can make in your most profitable business deal. Many patients have asked me just what I mean when I say that there are many ways in which hard-working executives go about killing themselves without realizing it. You can kill yourself by becoming a chronic alcoholic and drinking yourself to death. You can kill yourself by getting into an accident you might have prevented by speeding in your car. You can kill yourself by overwork. I don't go along with the belief that hard work never killed anyone. But I do admit that you can kill yourself by underwork, too. Some people actually rust to death. You can kill yourself by overexercise after 40. You can kill yourself by overeating and getting fat. Obesity is really the beginning of disease. Life insurance companies know this. They will turn you down. They won't bet on your life because fat persons aren't a good bet. You can kill yourself by going to your doctor and not taking his advice. I recall a coronary patient who was advised against overexertion, but he played 36 holes of golf in one day and died that night. He had put over a big deal and was celebrating at the country club. Many executives haven't time to go to a doctor, at least so they say. Self-treatment is the surest way to commit slow suicide. For example, I remember a well-known corporation president who had what he called indigestion. He thought it silly to bother his doctor, so he treated himself at the corner drugstore. He lost a great deal of weight in 3 months. At last, when he was forced to have an operation, they found incurable cancer. Never hesitate to bother your doctor with what you consider are silly and unimportant symptoms. Let him decide. Here are some practical ways to reduce tension. They have worked for many executives who are my patients and who thank me to this day. The suggestions are so simple, you wonder why everyone doesn't put them into effect. One of the ways in which the executive can invite physical and emotional problems is the daily tension produced by always being in a rush. If you are always fighting the hands of the clock, you are in danger of being choked by them. You must accept the fact that time is your most valuable commodity. Become a time miser. Don't put off things until the last minute. A good tip is to get up at least a half hour earlier than usual. Get the jump on time, and perhaps time won't jump on you. When you start late, you spend the rest of the day trying to catch up. Learn how to deal with a time snatcher. It is very important. The time thief robs you of your most valuable asset, yet there are no laws to punish him. The more courteous you are, the more he will take advantage of you. Unfortunately, the man who would not steal a penny from you will casually take your life, your precious time. Every primary grader knows that life is only 24 hours a day long. You have a right to be a time spendthrift, but nobody else has the moral right to put his hand in your pocket and snatch a precious hour, minute, or second of your day without your blessing and permission. The remedy is simple. Don't see people without appointment. I am not preaching incivility, just self-preservation. And don't hesitate to cut short an appointment that is running overtime. The caller is being unfair to you physically and emotionally, and is actually stealing time from others who want to see you. I can't emphasize this point too much. Many an executive will admit that he is endangering his health and comfort, just so he will be known as a good Joe who is always available. Sometimes you will have to hurt feelings, but don't worry. I have found that people who are insensitive to the next fellow's time urgency are themselves fairly insensitive to hints or insults. Next, allow time for unavoidable interruptions in your schedule. Therefore, provide for some elasticity in your day. If you fill up your appointment book, you will often come up with a big bite you can't chew. Get into the habit of making notes. Why carry facts around in your head unnecessarily? See if this simple expedient doesn't reduce tension. Bunch your phone calls. Don't tense up with every ring of the phone because you are expected to hear it. Unless it is very important, have your secretary take the time and the message or say you will call back. Then when you are not too busy, you can return a half dozen or more calls while relaxed. You can do this easily during a morning or afternoon coffee break. You can also install an inter-office communication device. Get a couch or comfortable lounge chair for your office. If you can develop the habit, there's nothing so invigorating and tension alleviating as a short nap when you feel the need for it. Don't become discouraged if at first you don't know how to nap. It takes practice to learn how. Another tip is to wear comfortable clothes. You'd be surprised how many men wear tight collars and ill-fitting shoes. Open your collar and kick off your shoes when you can. Take a lesson from the ladies who are in the habit of slipping out of their shoes whenever they're in for a long session off their feet. Don't rush to lunch, through it, or from it. Lunch should be an oasis in the desert. Better go without it if you can't take your time. To make time, always do one thing less than you think you can do. That's good advice from Bernard Baruch at the age of 85. Learn to be decisive, for it is true that indecision is a breeder of tension. It has been my experience that indecisive persons rarely make outstanding successes in their field. The indecisive are the yes men, not the yes or no men. The boss overlooks them when considering promotions. Keep remembering that frustration brought about by lack of decisiveness is a common cause of tension in the executive. When home tensions are added to office tensions, the result is a back-breaking load that few executives can carry. Here are some tips that will help alleviate them. If you have home tensions, the chances are they are traceable to marriage problems which you don't want to air. Overcome this reluctance. Visit your doctor and spill out your problems. Your doctor may avert serious family altercations and actually prevent divorce. An ulcer can make you cranky and difficult. An overactive thyroid or premenstrual tension can make your wife nervous and irritable. Unless you examine the possibility of a physical cause for incompatibility, you won't find the cure. Why not pay your doctor a visit before you see your lawyer? If you tell it to the doctor, you may not have to tell it to the judge. Some interesting suggestions for marital happiness have been offered by Dr. C.A. Johnson. He lists these rules. Volume of voice doesn't win a discussion. After all, people in love do not fight, they discuss. Learn not to shout. Let it become a habit to say please and thank you. Above all, learn to say, I'm sorry. Never air your troubles in public. No matter how sour the situation, never make a public display of your anger or indignation. Be sure that you never leave the house mad. More important yet, never go to bed mad. Don't discuss the sex prowess or problems of your mate with other people. Better go to your minister, your doctor, or a marriage counselor to seek help. Don't attempt to get it across the bridge table. I believe that a continual tug of war between husband and wife to see who's boss is not the proper environment for relaxation, love, and contentment. Other causes of home tension are disagreements over raising children, financial problems, chronic illness in the family, in-law trouble, trying to live up to the Joneses. Recognize them and try to remedy them. And here are some special tips for your wife. Get her to listen to them. Don't envy your male animal, Mrs. Executive. Don't be jealous of your children. Be a practical psychologist. Learn to handle that peculiar human animal called a husband. Be a good listener, or he'll find someone else who does listen. Don't be a nagger, except to nag him to take good care of his health. Learn to care more for people than for things. Don't take out your resentment by using the silent treatment for days. Be a good cook. Try not to alienate your husband's friends. Develop a real interest in your husband's hobbies. Learn to relax so you too won't be overtired when the two of you meet head-on after his trying day at the office. Don't greet him at the door with problems and complaints. Remember that though sex is only a three-letter word, it is vital to happiness in marriage. It's a natural step from the problems of tension to the effect your mind has on your body. Yet it surprises me that so many people still ask, is there really anything to all this talk about psychosomatic medicine? Without equivocation, my answer is that psychosomatics isn't just a fancy word. Psyche means mind. Soma means body. Put them together, and you have two pieces of delicate machinery that must be kept in harmonious balance. Otherwise, the entire operation gets out of hand. Although the Greek physician Hippocrates knew about the mind-body relationship over 2,000 years ago, it was not until about 25 years ago that doctors really came to realize how direct an effect our emotions exert on all our body organs. Yes, it is true that hate, anxiety, anger, resentment, and fear cause actual physical changes in the body. Your stomach, brain, heart, pancreas, glands of secretion, skin, arteries, every one of the billions of cells in your body are at the mercy of your emotions. Practically, what does this mean to you? If you are continually in a rush, if the hands of the clock keep thumbing their nose at you all day, if you take only 5 or 10 minutes for lunch, if you work 12 to 14 hours a day and then take more work home with you in your briefcase, if you have been trying to catch up with sleep but haven't the time, If you are always worried and tense about how much you have to do and how little time in which there is to do it, you may be heading for an ulcer, high blood pressure, coronary attack, diabetes, mental breakdown, or something worse, total annihilation. If you are doing this to yourself, it should be evident to you. But people, being human, need to be told these truths by their doctor. Then, if they are wise, they take corrective action. This doesn't consist of merely taking tranquilizers, tonics, vitamins, or pep tablets. A new way of life is more important than all the drugs put together. Remember, there's another day coming. Don't try to crowd 36 hours into a 24-hour day. Remember that your stomach will at last resent being the daily dumping ground for a stale cheese sandwich and a bottle of pop. It may not show its resentment right away, but it will in time. You'll soon be wearing that questionable badge of distinction called the ulcer. Therefore, take at least an hour for an unhurried lunch, preferably in pleasant company. If your work permits, do as I suggested earlier. Take a short nap every afternoon. Take time out for hobbies. Take frequent vacations, if only short trips on weekends. I've known numerous executives whose illnesses were directly due to their work itself. Many were square pegs in round holes. They actually detested their jobs. Many an ulcer, high blood pressure, or coronary condition was being aggravated because the patient disliked his work and was bored by it. Life is too short for you to spend most of your years getting up every morning with grim distaste for the day's work ahead. Many men stick to it because of the demands of status and income. I tell them, for the sake of their own happiness and that of their family, and perhaps even for the good of the firm, they'd be better off changing to something they'd rather do. Why waste the days of your years? Somerset Maugham wrote, quote, "The common idea that success spoils people by making them vain, egotistic, and self-complacent is erroneous. On the contrary, it makes them, for the most part, humble, tolerant, and kind. Failure makes people bitter and cruel." End of quote. Look around you and see how true this is. Can you look at yourself in the mirror and make an honest appraisal of yourself? Can you call yourself a fool when you have committed some silly, unforgivable mistake? Can you periodically wash hate, resentment, anxiety, and tension out of your system? If you can't, better start learning right now. Otherwise, your mind will begin playing dirty tricks on your body. At this point, I want you to take a deep breath and relax. Talking about tensions has taken up a good part of this record side. But I think you will agree that the need to combat tension heads the list of an executive's daily problems. Therefore, think back over what I have said. Better still, play and replay this record side until the suggestions and advice become a part of you. I guarantee you won't be sorry. Who better than your own doctor can teach you how to mesh the gears of your mind and body into a smooth working machine? That is why I keep recommending the need for yearly physical checkups. The trouble is that many of you don't know what to expect. You think that any slapdash examination that may take only 15 minutes to half an hour will do the job. Untrue. If you're going to have a physical, have a good one. Statistics show that people who go in for regular overhauls outlive their more fatalistic and procrastinating neighbors. First, it is important to choose a doctor who is interested in preventive medicine, one who thinks that seeing people before they become ill and who tries to prevent sickness is just as important as the more dramatic job of pulling someone through a coronary attack or severe pneumonia. If your own general practitioner hasn't the time or training or equipment for an extensive medical checkup, he should be glad to refer you to an internist who specializes in this work. Maybe your own company will make the arrangements. At least 1,000 corporations now advise their top echelon employees to be examined periodically. A conservative estimate is that some 100,000 executives stripped for physicals last year. These examinations took place in the offices of their own private doctors, in special clinics, and in company-run medical departments. Most employers agree that the results of the examination should remain confidential. This is important. It invites cooperation. The firm does not meddle with the life of the executive. He, in turn, may feel honor-bound to disclose an illness the firm should know about. Now, having made the appointment for the checkup, what should you expect? First and above all, you are entitled to time, capital T-I-M-E. That means anywhere from an hour and a half on up for an unhurried investigation. It is important that your doctor take a complete history. This in itself will require at least 1/2 hour. Your doctor will need to size you up as a human being, to learn about your way of life, work, habits, home life, methods of relaxation, your philosophy, fears, resentments. Next comes the physical examination. What does that mean? Just what the name implies. Your doctor should start with your hair and go all the way down to your toenails. He will examine your eyes and look into them with an ophthalmoscope to determine how healthy the retina is. This may give him clues to the presence of early diabetes, arteriosclerosis, high blood pressure, kidney disease. He will also take your eye pressure with an instrument called a tonometer. This is important to exclude the possibility of glaucoma, a common cause of blindness. He will examine your ears, nose, and sinuses. He will inspect your entire skin covering to rule out such abnormalities as early cancer. He will examine your teeth and throat. He will palpate your thyroid gland. He will tap your chest and listen with a stethoscope. You will be fluoroscoped. He will study your heart and lungs further by examining X-ray plates of these organs. He will knead and thump your abdomen to rule out the presence of abnormal enlargements or growths. If you are a woman, he will do a pelvic examination. If you are a male, he will examine your prostate gland. But, male or female, he will do a rectal examination with the necessary instruments. What I have told you so far is only the beginning of the investigation. There are neurological tests. There may be indications for basal metabolism tests, electrocardiograms, and other laboratory tests like routine hemoglobin red and white cell counts, urine tests, blood sugars, uric acid, Wassermann, and cholesterol determinations. I'd like to leave you with this advice. You aren't having a really good physical examination if your doctor has you out of his office within half an hour or less. That isn't up-to-date 20th century preventive medicine. When you leave your doctor's office, you should feel that you've had the works. Otherwise, you have not only misspent time and money, you have not really taken proper steps to keep well and live long. If you feel well, chances are that you will come away from your doctor's office with a verdict of not guilty. It is a wonderfully satisfying feeling to learn that you're in good health. But it is also important to recognize disease early. And I want to give you some pointers on such conditions as coronary disease, ulcer, and high blood pressure. There are many types of heart disease. Coronary artery disease is a term pretty well known to most executives. The coronary arteries are the arteries of the heart. They bring nourishment and oxygen to the heart muscle. When something interferes with the blood circulation through them, the result is coronary artery disease. That something is usually called atherosclerosis. It is in some way tied up with faulty cholesterol metabolism. People with high cholesterol readings in their blood should not eat saturated fats. That's as bad as a diabetic eating too much sugar. The two main types of coronary disease are angina pectoris and coronary thrombosis. In the former, the artery closes off gradually. In the latter, it closes off suddenly due to a thrombus or clot. Tranquilizers and sedatives are often helpful in coronary disease. Bad temper is the enemy of coronary patients. Self-treatment is dangerous too. But faith in large doses is a potent medicine in its management. The patient who learns something about his disease lives much longer than his fatalistic neighbor who says there's nothing you can do about it. We Americans eat more fat than the people of any other country. That is why perhaps we suffer more coronary disease than anyone else. We consume about 19 tablespoonfuls of fat in our daily diet. The Chinese only about 2 tablespoonfuls, and they have little coronary disease. Our fats come from eggs, milk, cream, pastry, nuts, olives, peanut butter, ice cream, rich salad dressings, olive oil, French fries, hollandaise sauce, chocolates, and cookies. However, we also know that cholesterol is formed in the body independently of food intake. Therefore, one can't entirely prevent its formation by diet. If you have angina, don't be afraid to take nitroglycerin. Many angina patients remain unnecessarily uncomfortable because they don't take it often enough. You may take as many as 1 or 2 dozen tablets a day if necessary. Just make sure they are fresh. The ECG, the electrocardiogram, is important, but it is only a part of the heart evaluation. No matter how able your family doctor, he should not hesitate to call in a heart specialist when a family member has had a coronary thrombosis or other evidence of heart disease. The best climate for coronary patients is an equable one. Nevertheless, the choice should depend upon the patient's personal preferences. Most recovered coronary thrombosis patients may fly. However, 3 months at least should elapse after the original attack. And angina patients having frequent attacks should not fly until they check with their doctor. The use of blood thinners for months after the original attack will depend upon your own doctor's preferences and experience, but more so upon your own condition. Most patients are able to return to work after a coronary thrombosis. Heart surgery sometimes helps anginal patients who find no relief from routine medical treatment. Tobacco is bad for coronary patients. Alcohol is often good. Every wife should know the truth about her husband's condition. Otherwise, she may be the innocent cause of his collapse. Sexual activity is a subject every coronary patient should discuss with his doctor. A history of coronary disease in your family does not mean that you're next, but you should take precautions. Have a physical at least once a year. Remember, it is your heart, your life. More often than you realize, your heart's in your own hands. I've told many executives, if you have an ulcer, don't consider yourself a man of distinction, sipping from a glass half filled with milk and cream. Remember that anyone can have an ulcer, a farmer in Idaho, as well as an office manager in New York. I've already tried to show you the importance of emotional stress and ulcer. Be aware of the distinction between duodenal and gastric ulcer. In the latter case, there is the possibility of cancer formation. Therefore, patients with gastric ulcer should have checkup x-rays at least twice yearly. But keep remembering, if you can avoid it, an ulcer just ain't worth getting. As for high blood pressure, it will help you to know these points. When you live under great daily pressure, you invite high blood pressure. As an executive, you must make your choice between status and financial security on the one hand, and health, happiness, and longer life on the other. The treatment of high blood pressure should begin early. In most cases, drugs have taken the place of the knife in the treatment of high blood pressure. It is essential to review your emotional reactions to your job, family, and your friends. Don't be afraid of being too introspective and labeled a hypochondriac. It's much better to be a live hypochondriac at 80 than a dead super-optimist at 40. Good health and long life often depend upon what kind of person you are, moderate or immoderate, mature or immature, the victim of your bad habits, or the captain of your fate. At times it is hard for me to reconcile the ambivalence of some executives. On the one hand, they work fantastically hard to succeed. On the other, they go about killing themselves prematurely. For example, consider overexercise. It is like dynamite for some people. It should be handled carefully. There are many needless deaths from overexertion. I'm in favor of moderate exertion, but don't try to be a middle-aged athlete. Don't try to prove you're as good as you used to be. That will get you into trouble. Needless exertion is a foolish waste of God-given energy. Exercise will not harm the normal heart, it is true. The question is, are you sure your heart's normal? Don't be talked into believing that you can be healthier if you exercise. Don't try to counterbalance days and weeks of inactivity by indulging in one short burst of overactivity. For example, trying to get in all your exercise on one weekend or during a week's vacation. If you are lazy by nature, don't be ashamed of having this delightful characteristic. On the other hand, if you like activity, better learn what is moderation for you. Exercise is not the only way to fitness. Remember that you can't be both fat and fit. Reduce and you will not only look better, you will feel better. Don't tell your friends you're on a diet. Whenever you do tell your dinner hostess, for some perverse reason she will start forcing second helpings on you. Don't live with a diet sheet in front of your nose. And don't be talked into the crazy diets that sweep the country every few years. They are ridiculous and of only temporary benefit, if any. Never, but almost never, overeat. Don't fill up on fat snacks before bedtime. Too much fat overloading the bloodstream is bad for the heart. Don't get diet happy. You will defeat your own purpose by trying to lose too fast. It may come off, but it won't stay off. Remember that glands and lack of exercise have little to do with excess weight. Newfangled vibrators and reducing machines are also of questionable help. They make people feel good who like to be massaged, but they don't take weight off in your special places. Do you want to know the secret of losing weight? It consists of 4 words: the will to lose. Without it, you'll get nowhere. I have never known one patient to lose weight unless he has the will to do it. Without it, you'll find excuses. You'll say, I'm going on a diet tomorrow. Tomorrow? How about today? What's stopping you from beginning now? We live by habit, but we sometimes die by habit, too. We can't be saints, but we can try to live a reasonable way of life. For example, consider smoking. At this time, I can't tell you without question that tobacco causes cancer of the lung. But I can say without hesitation, better stop smoking if you have any of the following ailments: Berger's disease, duodenal or stomach ulcer, mouth or lip sores, angina pectoris, a history of coronary thrombosis, high blood pressure, chronic bronchitis, asthma, emphysema, sinus trouble, and any other conditions your doctor believes contraindicate your using the weed. Many people take chances on moderate smoking until definite proof comes that it causes cancer. But I'd consider myself stupid if I continued to smoke if there were good reason for me not to do so. If you have to stop, you will not harm your body by stopping suddenly, no matter how many years you have smoked. To say, it's liable to be a shock to my system, is only a lame excuse. Now, alcoholism is a much graver problem. We are coming to consider it as a sickness rather than judging the unfortunate drunkard as a moral derelict. Nearly 1 out of every 2 adults drinks alcohol. They are either chronic alcoholics, excessive drinkers, or moderate drinkers. Better find your category right away, Mr. Executive. If you are excessive, better become moderate before you are catapulted over into the abyss of chronic alcoholism. You may be able to get away with 2 to 3 martinis at lunch, a few beers, and 6 fingers of scotch or bourbon, or more, every night without their interfering with your job or family happiness. But you're skating on very thin ice. For stronger characters than you have skidded into the depths of chronic alcoholism. When you drink excessively, you gamble with your job and with your family's happiness and future. Insomnia is another universal problem faced by those who live under tension. Executives especially need a good night's sleep. You may need only 6 hours, while your neighbor needs 8 or 9 before he is completely rested. Therefore, I say that tranquilizers, sleeping pills are all right to take occasionally, but only under your doctor's supervision. Otherwise, you invite trouble. In closing, I want to give you a few tips on getting the most out of your life. Keep reminding yourself that you only live once. Don't keep putting off pleasure until tomorrow. If your business motto is do it now, let it apply to your fun as well. Even if you can't afford traveling around the world, there are less expensive and just as fulfilling ways of enjoying yourself. Don't always keep watching the Joneses. The fact is, there aren't any real Joneses. You can find them only in the telephone book. You may be Jones to your neighbor. Buy the books you can't wait to read. Buy the hi-fi car you have always wanted. Get a new mattress today to replace the old lumpy one. Live now, not on the promise of tomorrow. As an executive, you can't easily pull out from your present responsibilities. If you change jobs, you may be getting into something worse. So think carefully before you make the move. But vacations are often the answer to the unremitting tensions that make you happy. Vacations are antidotes to mental clinkers that poison your system. Don't be afraid of being bypassed by someone at the office while you are away. Vacations are luxurious necessities. They are not luxuries. Never take a prolonged vacation at home. Vacation means change. You must get away so they can't get you on the telephone. And don't try to make up too much lost time while on vacation. Plan your vacation ahead of time so you won't be worrying about the expense. And don't downgrade short vacations. They work wonders too. What is the right age for retirement? I've often been asked this question. My stock answer is that it is an entirely personal matter. One can happily retire in his mid-40s, another not until his middle 60s or later. You must know that boredom is like an emotionally painful and disturbing illness. Preventive measures against boredom should be taken many years before the expected cessation of business activities. There's always time, whatever one's age, to capture at least a few of the benefits of retirement. But you can't do so if you are mentally or physically lazy. Don't settle on any pat retirement formula. Only you, as the individual involved, can properly answer what's best for you. Preparation for retirement is a three-pronged process. You must prepare yourself physically, psychologically, and economically many years before our day. Here we are at the end of our chat. I prefer calling it that rather than consultation. If you have listened carefully and will replay this recording as often as you are in the mood, you will come away better informed on how to lower your tensions, improve your health, and lengthen the span of your life. You will have learned a few of the basic facts that appear in my book, Mr. Executive, Keep Well, Live Longer. I think it is fitting that I use that title as a closing toast to your good health. So I give you, Mr. Executive, keep well, live longer.